Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm your host, Lisa Oligas. In this edition, the Downtown Black History and Performing Arts Mural. The mural at 1st and Main Street on the side of Bruce's Point of View was unveiled and officially dedicated September 18th before a crowd of supporters. Artist Alexander Austin made the big reveal of the mural, which features 12 black artists and activists who performed or visited Joplin during the time of racial segregation in America. One of those featured is Joplin native Charles Mcpherson, a renowned jazz saxophonist. He played at the ceremony, and later we will take a listen. The event also featured a city proclamation delivered by Mayor Pro Tem Keenan Cortez.
Proclaiming September 18, 2022, Alexander Austin Day.
Joining us on Newsmakers today are Nanda Nunnally, who is the president of the Minnie Hackney Community Center, and she's a founding member of the Langston Hughes Cultural Society, and the mural artist Alexander Austin, who is nationally recognized as one of the top 30 African-American artists working in the United States. His works have appeared in Essence Magazine, the New York Times, Washington Post, and Time Magazine. And in 2007, he was commissioned to paint the facade of the Kansas City Power and Light District with a mural covering 18,000 square feet, transforming a 2-block stretch of wall into a panorama that is a gateway to the entertainment district. We are so glad you could join us for this edition of Newsmakers in this conversation. Congratulations on this wonderful piece of art that graces downtown Joplin.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
The mural is something you really need to see. So we want to talk to you about, first, I'd like to ask you, Alexander, what was it like to get that proclamation? It's September 18th is Alexander Austin Day for Joplin.
That's unbelievable. I'm still like stunned that happened because I had no idea that was going to happen.
I stand here today on the shoulders of people like this that have paved the way to allow any citizen in this United States of America to participate in this great experiment and to be able to do the things that help shape and move communities forward. So it is my great honor to stand here today and speak to you, and I'm so proud of the work that has been done in the last several years by the Langston Hughes Cultural Society, the Downtown Community Service Center, and everybody else involved, the Joplin Arts District, to make this day possible. It was a great honor and pleasure of mine this is one of my thoroughfares that I traveled to go back and forth to work, and I would stop on many different occasions and check the progress of Mr. Alexander Austin's work here. And every time I would come by here, I would just smile and beam with pride that this is happening right here in Joplin, Missouri. So if you're here today, or if you were a part of this happening today, you should feel a great deal of pride in making this a reality. But I have a dual purpose of being here today, and if I could get Mr. Austin to come join me, if he's around. Today I have a proclamation proclaiming September 18, 2022, Alexander Austin Day. If you would give me just a moment and allow me to read it for you, I'll be happy to do that. Whereas in the fall of 2019, Langston Hughes Cultural Society set out to have a mural made to honor black performers that had decades ago performed in Joplin during the segregation era and honor their story. And whereas to watching to have an African American artist do the mural, the search to find this artist led them to the renowned Kansas City muralist, Alexander Austin. And once he knew of the historical significance of the project, he became involved in the design process. And whereas the Downtown Black History and Performing Arts mural was painted in July of 2022 at 1st and Main Street in Joplin, showing Joplin-born talent Langston Hughes and Charles Mcpherson, as well as Cap Calloway, Melissa Cuthbert, Ella Fitzgerald, Ella Johnson, Sammy Davis Jr., Duke Ellington, Marion Anderson, Mamie Smith, Scott Joplin, and Dizzy Gillespie in paying homage to the Lincoln School and the Joplin Uplift newspaper. And whereas the Joplin community was blessed with the talent and passion of Austin as he gave his start as a billboard, as he got his start as a billboard painter, got his big break in 1994 when his work was included in an African American art exhibit in Harlem, leading to his listing as one of the top 30 black artists in the United States. Top 30 black artists in the United States.
I was just elated, just surprised and overwhelmed that they would go to that extent to show their appreciation for my work. And I was very, very, very happy that to achieve that. And it's been a special moment in my life, and I'm enjoying it.
That's great. You utilized a scissor lift at the dedication to reveal the mural, but I also understand you had to use that as you created it, as you painted it. Can you take us through your process of how you create a mural? I mean, you don't just go up there and start painting, so how do you go from start to finish? You create a smaller version first?
Yes, we do. Normally I would get photographs from a client, ask them to start first so they could initiate the work themselves, and then I would take over from there and get the photographs together and compose them and create the mural from there.
What is the biggest challenge? You have lots of faces here. Were there some big challenges?
Oh yeah, doing portraits is a very intricate process, and you have to have knowledge of facial expressions, how the light affects the form, and how to create a reasonable likeness of the person.
Because these were real people.
Yes, they're real people, and it takes a while. And if you haven't studied that, then normally you would have an image that would not look correct at all. So it takes a lot of practice. I've done thousands and thousands of portraits, and I'm not the best at it yet, but I'm good enough to where I can create an image in a reasonable amount of time and a likeness that people seem to enjoy.
Yeah, well, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, this project didn't receive any grant funding, which you mentioned at the dedication. How did it come together, and who supported this effort?
So many people. It really came together through the community. That's how we put it out there, what we plan to do. We asked for donations to go towards it, and members of the community came forward. We had some larger amounts, and then just some people, as little as $10. So it really, to me, felt special that it came from the communities, from area businesses, and some families that are no longer even in the area anymore. They felt it was so important to do, to donate towards this. So yeah, really, Ralph Baird family. I have to call out Ralph Baird and Max Baird family. They were responsible for bringing Langston Hughes to Joplin back in 1958 for a visit, and their children contributed to the mural project. Quite a bit, and
big part of their legacy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's so many people to note, but the organizations that also worked on this, including Connect to Culture and SPIVA and Post Art Library, the Joplin Arts District, Pro Musica, TAMCO. Also, we had just some amazing people that stepped forward to make sure that this got the funding that it needed.
That's great. The mural, we're going to show some video, depicts 12 black artists and activists. Melissa Phil Cuthbert was born in Warrensburg, Missouri, but became a leader in the Joplin community and was instrumental in the formation of the George Washington Carver Monument. She was a singer, writer, educator, and community organizer. She performed with John Blind Boone in Joplin and wrote a book about him and his travels, which was groundbreaking as she was the first African American to write a book about a black musician. There's also Sammy Davis Jr., many people know him, a singer, dancer, director, and activist who was part of the Will Maston Trio when he actually performed in Joplin. Dizzy Gillespie's on there, a jazz trumpeter, singer, bandleader, educator, and composer who played at the Holiday Inn in Joplin in the 1940s and 50s. Mamie Smith, a vaudeville singer, dancer, pianist, and actress who made blues history with her recording of Crazy Blues. That sold more than 1 million copies, making her a very wealthy woman. She stopped in Joplin while touring the country in the 1920s. Ella Fitzgerald, a recognizable name, the First Lady of Song, performed at the Joplin Holiday Inn as well with Duke Ellington in the 1940s. Scott Joplin, a musician and composer, considered the king of ragtime, performed at the Joplin House of Lords Saloon, located in the 300 block of South Main Street, also featured. Duke Ellington, an American jazz pianist, composer, and orchestra leader, performed at the Holiday Inn Club, once located at 33rd and Main Street. Cab Calloway is also featured, another American singer, songwriter, dancer, and band leader. He performed at Joplin Memorial Hall in 1939. Marion Anderson, a contralto singer with a 3-octave range, was considered one of the greatest singers in the world during her lifetime, and an activist. She performed at Joplin Memorial Hall March 8th in 1942. Ella Johnson was a jazz R&B singer who performed with her brother Buddy Johnson and his orchestra, and they performed at Joplin Memorial Hall in the 1940s. And there are 2 natives of Joplin featured on this mural. They are Charles Mcpherson, who was born in Joplin and moved to Detroit at the age of 9 and started playing jazz professionally at age 19. Mcpherson played a community concert in Joplin this year at the historic Fox Theater in downtown Joplin. And of course, there's Langston Hughes, a Joplin native who was a poet, columnist, playwright, composer, and social activist who was a leader in the Harlem Renaissance. Now, Nanda, you are a big part of the Langston Hughes Cultural Society, and I know a relative attended the ceremony. How does this mural support your mission to share the Langston Hughes history and other prominent Black artists?
Right. So the Langston Hughes Cultural Society, our mission is basically to educate people about Langston Hughes and his contributions to the American history that we know. So it was, him being a part of this was really huge, and we're so very thankful for Margil Rush Collette, his cousin, who came and acknowledgement of the family of Mr. Hughes. So, but when we talk about Langston Hughes and that time frame, there were so many of the other people that we put on the mural that were also kind of connected to Langston Hughes. He was friends with some of them, which is really, I think, really cool, really interesting. Langston started through his poetry, jazz poetry. So he wrote poetry almost like you would write music. And so it was just fitting that he would go, right there on that mural in that way. So.
And, we think of him as a poet, but he also wrote musicals, which I was not aware of previously. And I learned from experiences with you. At Joplin Little Theater, we did an evening with Langston Hughes. Right. And we produced that there. Would you be so kind to read one of Langston's poems?
Yes, I love, and I will say yesterday's event was a dream come true for me personally, and I'm so very thankful to you, Alexander, for being part of that. So, Dreams by Langston Hughes. Hold fast to dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken-winged bird who cannot fly. Hold fast to dreams, for when dreams go, life is a barren field frozen with snow.
Now, I asked you to read that, but you didn't really have to read it. You have it pretty much memorized. Has that been part of your life, part of your world?
My mother was a huge Langston Hughes poetry person. And so this was a poem that always hung in our house wherever we lived. This poem hung in our house, in our living room, and we would read it often. So, yes.
How has this been a dream fulfilled for you? You mentioned that it has, but was it a long process?
Yeah. So, for me especially, I think it's just very important that we educate our youth. And I felt like that there were some people that were missing in the education of our youth in this area. I just felt it was very important that we respect and acknowledge the fact that some of these entertainers, not only did they have to deal with issues in America, but coming to Joplin, they were not allowed to stay in hotels. They had to stay in private homes. Miss Cuthbert, as you mentioned, was instrumental in making sure that they, although they would perform for white audiences, that they also went to Lincoln School and performed for the students at Lincoln School. Mr. Charles Mcpherson remembers some of these artists performing at Ewart Park during times there as he was growing up. So I just think it was really important that we educate our youth so that they know, hey, this is part of our history, and it's a way to talk about it and discuss it and know that this was how it is, and we're moving forward and we're making changes, but we're still respecting this history.
Right. Well, Charles Mcpherson is a prominent figure on the mural and in color, and you said that he was kind of the reason he prompted you. He came and did a concert in Joplin. He kind of prompted you to think about this mural, right?
Yes.
Kind of a little bit inspiring. Alexander, was it intentional that he was in color, and how did you decide where you would add color to the mural and where you would have it be different shades of black and white?
Well, it had a lot to do with the timeline and the history that was presented by Miss Nunnally, that I placed him in certain places on the mural, and specifically his image was supposed to be more vibrant and more colorful than the rest, indicating the timeline and how everything flowed through the mural, and that was the reason why, because it was about the past and the future coming to the past. And as you know, we didn't have black and white, color back then, so everything's black and white, so that was significant, and that's the way it was composed.
And we loved the idea of him playing the saxophone, and it almost like those people were coming out of his music. They gave to him, and then he's pushing them back out from this.
And music was such a big part of it. A lot of these people were performers, musicians, and singers, and a lot of the jazz era in that realm. So Charles shared his thoughts on music at the dedication. We're going to take a listen to him playing some blues. We're back. We're focusing on Black history and the Downtown Black History and Performing Arts mural in downtown Joplin with artist Alexander Austin and project coordinator Nanda Nunnally. Besides the wonderful musicians, the mural features the image of Lincoln School, which was the hub of education for Black children in the Joplin area before desegregation. Why was it important to include Lincoln School? So you kind of mentioned that Charles Mcpherson remembered it. He talked about a teacher, Betty Smith.
Yes. So Lincoln School was not only just where kids would go to get school day education. It was also a place where they would hold social events and different things like that. Principal Marion Dial and Miss Melissa Cuthbert, they made sure that when certain artists came to town, that they would come and perform there at Lincoln School for the school children, giving them a way to see, if you can imagine going to school to see Dizzy Gillespie or Duke Ellington, so
it's amazing.
So that was music was a rich history, a part of Lincoln School's history as well.
And Charles remembered it. It was nice to have him. He's the one living representative of the mural at the event, talking about some of that history, remembering a teacher there, and then seeing relatives of that teacher there. He was very excited about that. And he said, I'll never forget that teacher. And it was many, many years ago. He's in his 80s, and he was like 8 years old, remembering Betty Smith.
Wow.
The other aspect of the mural, which is wonderful, is in giant letters across the top. The mural says Joplin Uplift. Now, that too has history that many of us probably do not know. It was a newspaper Didn't
Yes,
realize
yes.
that. Nanda, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Joplin Uplift, the words, don't just mean uplifting Joplin. The uplift, it was called the Negro Uplift Movement that happened back in the early 20s. And the publisher of the newspaper, his name was Augustus Tutt. He published the Joplin Uplift and the Springfield Uplift. And it was a newspaper that went out and talked about current events, not just in Joplin, but all over the world. So.
And he was one of the few African Americans who would have owned and edited the newspaper.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And he has a rich history as well in his family. So Mr. Tutt fought in World War I. He was a member of the Bearcats, an elite group of African American soldiers that fought in World War I, and then had a son who was also a decorated soldier and went on to become the father of Congresswoman Barbara Lee from the state of California.
It's amazing how you find out more history as you learn these little tidbits. It's so nice to have that. So, Alexander, how did you determine how to fit that into the design, the Joplin Uplift?
Well, they gave me the images, which was a big help. And I just went with the basic composition of laying things out. And if it feels good to me, I leave it alone. And if it doesn't, I change it. And that's basically the way I work. If it feels good, leave it alone. And if things need to be changed, then I change them. And I also got a confirmation from Nanda and Linda, and they really, really were big help, giving their input and vision, and confirming the way things worked out. So it was a collaboration.
Miss Betty Smith has some of the Joplin Uplift newspapers, and we received them from Jill Sullivan with Post Art Library as well. So it was really helpful to have that bit of guidance there.
And those images can actually be seen. I only shared a tidbit of the history associated with those individuals on the mural, but there is sort of like a keystone kind of a map at the bottom right corner if you go there to see it. How does that work that you can tap into that?
So I kind of call it a mural map, and it basically lays out everyone and puts their names out there, because that was one of the things people would drive by and they're like, that's a beautiful, who's that?
Right.
So we put their names on there. But there's also a QR code there, and if you scan that QR code, it will take you to a website that is ran through the Minnehackney Community Service Center. We are doing a Black History Heritage Trail in the city of Joplin, and the mural is the first stop. And so you scan to that, and it'll show you every single person on the mural and tell a little bit about them, and also give some video. It's kind of interactive.
It shows the newspapers, so you can get to see the Joplin Uplift, which is an education for everybody. So it's awesome.
Very good.
We spoke with several people attending the event about the impact the mural has on them. One called it a game changer. Another said it shows that Black history is Joplin history. Part of it is in there. One woman told me it shows her children who are biracial that they can achieve anything if they put their mind to it. Another was proud it happened, and even more excited that she was proud to be part of it, being in the presence there. Charles Mcpherson called it a snapshot of history, but they all hoped it starts conversations. What did you hope?
Conversations. I just think it's so important for our young people to talk about this and to share this. It's just so very important, and it's such a beautiful piece. Again, Alexander, such a beautiful piece.
Thank you. It was nice to see all kinds of people coming by, black, white, all races, and the kids was the most. I'll never forget the kids. Oh, Mom, it's so beautiful. It was nice, black and white kids. Unity is my most. The thing that I want to see most of all is just people communicating and getting along. Racial harmony is important, and I saw that. I experienced everything, and it was great. Great. Yeah. Yes.
All economic, social backgrounds, people coming by to cheer him on.
Homeless people.
Dropping off food, dropping off drinks, dropping off, just to cheer him on. He was out there in 104-degree temperatures painting this summer. And so having that extra enthusiasm from the Joplin community was everything he needed, I think, to get
How long did it take you? And, was it a day after day thing? You talked about maybe doing a face a day.
Yeah. I planned on a face a day. I think it was like 14. I don't know the number, but a portrait a day, and then the background, which made it about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
About 3 weeks at the most I was there. Yeah, so it went. It's,
Up and down on that lift.
Yeah, up and down on that lift. I got a strong back after that.
He learned how to drive it really well.
Yeah, I did. And it was just a great experience. I mean, physically, you really do get the exercise because you have to climb up on that thing and down, and so that's 30 or 40 times a day.
How many times did you have to run across the street to go? Get a perspective.
Oh boy!
The mural
to get the panoramic, yeah, I had to go up and down and across the street a lot. Normally, I would use a camera and my phone on Facebook. I would have two phones. I would put one on live Facebook, and then I would have the other phone, which I would observe that live Facebook feed on my phone. So I really didn't have to get down and go across the street as much. So that's something that I created when I was painting downtown, the large mural down there. I was like, I'm 5 stories up in there. How am I going to go down and walk across the street? So some way or another, the brain works when it needs to.
The benefits of technology.
Yes, the benefits of technology. Yeah, so that works quite well. And I've shared it with some other artists too, so I'm quite sure we might see more of that.
When you look at the mural, what's your emotion? What was your first reaction?
Well, first of all, it's absolutely amazing, and I think it's important to walk all the way up to it and to actually look at the wall. There's nothing flat about that wall. It's bricks.
Yes.
And for him to paint the way it looks when you're standing back, it looks like photographs and it looks flat. But that corner, to me, it's just like inspiring. It's an inspiration to people driving into Joplin, I believe.
And it is close to the north part of Maine. There's another mural that welcomes people to Joplin, but really coming in, that's the best way to see it.
Yes.
Do you feel like it's going to educate more people?
Yes.
Because I mean, there was a lot of things I didn't know about Joplin Uplift. What do you hope to, I guess, it shares in the educational realm?
Again, it's all about starting conversations, asking people. I think the scan code is so wonderful for people to be able to go and get more resources. And hopefully, we'll have students and teachers bringing their kids, school kids there.
Field trip.
Field trip, yes. But definitely about educating, but I also see a revitalization down there. That's what I hope. That's what we're believing, that we can also see some revitalization. And Joplin's got some great murals, so let's bring more art and more.
And it's great representation.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your work. We appreciate you being here, both of you. Nanda Nunley with the Mini Hackney organization, the Community Center. Austin Alexander, thank you for joining us today. The mural is really something you need to see in person. You can check it out at First and Main on the north side of Bruce's Point of View. Thank you so much for being our guest today and sharing this with us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
And thank you for watching Newsmakers.